Well, I'll tell you, we have been amazed to see what God has done in the ministry of Casting Crowns. We're even more amazed to see what God is doing in our student ministry. I've been a youth pastor for about 13 years and been writing songs for a long time. And there's one thing I would want you to know about us before we go tonight is that I came so close to never being a youth pastor. So close to never even thinking about writing a song. Because I have spent almost all of my life scared. It's as though Satan had these little buttons in the back of my head and he can hit them anytime he wanted. And it seems like any time that God was ever calling me to do something, first of all, when God leads you to do something, it always seems like it's out here somewhere, you know. And right about the time I'm fired up enough to jump, Satan hits one of those buttons and reminds me, here's a million reasons why you're not good enough to do that. We've all got our buttons, don't we? Some of mine are a little different. One of mine is called dyslexia. When I don't read real good, basically. Scientifically, somewhere between the page and my brain telling me what the page says, there's kind of and I lose my spot. Okay. And I also, when I was a little kid, I got tested for ADD, and I passed. Thank you. Only 100 I ever got on a test in school. I was like, yeah. Mom was like, no. You know, it was pretty quick to understand. I can understand dyslexia, can't read. That's pretty simple. But ADD, they're explaining it to me, but I really wasn't listening. So, still not exactly sure what it is. I just know they abbreviate it for us so we can get on to something else. Otherwise, I'll be up here going, yeah, I got attention deaf. Hey. Something shiny over there. Yeah. So I got tested right about before third grade, and I was a little kid, but I could pick up on stuff. You know, I wasn't dense in every area, you know. And they were testing me. I think the funniest thing about that day was the length of time it took them to explain to me what ADD was. Okay, so run with me for a minute, okay? She gives me a test that tells her I'm not listening. All through that hour-long discussion, I'm thinking, why are we still talking? You know, I mean, I've already counted the ceiling tiles. I've got like Brady Bunch episodes going through my head. Brady Bunch was a show. It's a long. Okay, so yeah. So I see just then. I'm like, I was talking about something. So when I was coming up, it was really tough. And I can joke about it now, and it's so good for me to be able to do that. Because I was 21 years old before I ever said the word dyslexia. Because I was about this big. And Satan made sure anytime I tried to even think about doing anything bigger than this, he would remind me one more time, you step out and I'll show them who you really are. Because what I'm learning is once Satan tells you you have a problem, the next thing he tells you is that you're the only one with that problem. And it didn't help for me to go to church, because when I went to church when I was a kid, somehow, and I don't know exactly how, we were so blessed, but we were a part of the perfect church. Nobody sinned at my church. I mean, they were all sick. Because, I mean, you go to prayer time, and it's like hearts and lungs and brains and kidneys. But there were no marriages being prayed for. No one had unforgiveness in their heart. No one lusted after stuff or coveted. No one was bitter. And I just figured out pretty early, I'm messed up. Because if there's one place in the world you ought to be able to tell someone you need help, it'd be the body of Christ, right? So that's a whole other song. So I learned pretty early to be quiet. And it took me a little while to figure out, you guys are messed up too. So deal with that. And on top of this, Satan just stripped the word right out of my hands because I learned pretty early I didn't take my Bible to church. Because if I ever took it to Sunday school, they made you read. You remember that? The little room with the rainbows on the wall and the little wooden chairs? And they'd make you read verses in it for like an hour because the teacher didn't study your lesson. You remember what I'm talking about. We're so on to you. We're so on to you. I kind of understand now because I'm thinking, she's up there thinking, I got 45 minutes with you, little beast. Turn to Leviticus. I will have control. So, and I learned, it's to start, I did a little thing where I would count the people because they always go around the circle, And I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I go down to the 5th verse, and I just start rehearsal in my head. Just read it. Every time, man, right over here, some kid would go to the bathroom, throw the whole circle off. Yeah. And I figure out pretty soon, I think that kid was dyslexic. He was just smarter than me. I'm sitting here counting the people. 1, 2. He just goes to the bathroom. Man. So I stopped taking my Bible. My Bible stayed on the remembrance table on the front of the church because I was always losing it.